Welcome, Matt, to the Wholesome Crypto Podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Rudy.
Of course, I've seen your artwork. I've seen, everyone probably knows you as Cats Will Eat You. And before we get into how you came up with that name, I want to know more about how you found crypto, how you found Bitcoin or Ethereum, and where were you when that happened?
Yeah, well, it kind of a roundabout way. I think in 2018, Cash App added crypto payments as an option, and you could trade any sort of, if somebody paid you in cash, you could quickly trade it right into Bitcoin in the app. And I was playing with a band at the time where someone would pay the practice space rent, and then we would all pay that person with Cash App. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of like a sneaky little way for me to invest some money into Bitcoin, which I'd just been reading about it a little bit and found it very interesting. But I think, over the course of that first year of using, I think my small, little $25 investments all went down, over the course of the year. So I didn't really have a huge interest in it. And I wasn't doing real crypto at all. It was it was some sort of custodial wallet, I'm sure, that Cash App had set up, but it was a super easy on-ramp for me. So I was kind of just watching that just barely. And then I think at the end of 2018, there was a early, or not the earliest, but earlier marketplace for NFTs that launched. I don't even know if they called them NFTs at the time, but Maker's Place. And they reached out and asked me if I wanted to be a founding artist partner with them. And I had just fallen for a different scam from the same platform that they contacted me through Elo, which is a social media art platform. And so I was like, nope, not going to do it. I just straight up ignored it.
Lesson.
Right? I just totally blew a huge opportunity there, because I'd fallen for it was a spec work scam where you do mock-ups for somebody and they act like they're going to hire you for more business, but they just take they were kind of popular then. It was 5-6 years ago. Anyways, I fell for that, and then immediately I got hit up by this Maker's Place thing, and I was like, no, I can't. I'm not gonna do this. And I just ignored several emails from them. I went back later and saw them. I was like, no, what was I doing? Why didn't I say yes? But then, fast forward a couple years into COVID, during the lockdown, I was kind of taking more time to focus on my the sales side of my own art. And I had built an online store, and I was just doing a little bit of research, and I came on a few different articles. I think it was on Reddit on just NFTs. And I was like, oh, this sounds super interesting. I kind of remember this happening. I thought this was a scam a couple years ago, but then I looked at the marketplaces, and these things were starting to get significant, significant bids for people and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. And then I kind of dove into, and I actually looked at my Cash App wallet for the first time in a couple of years. And I was like, oh, that's more money than I remember being in there. That's interesting. And then, it's so funny how that happened. And then I was like, oh, I should have been investing that whole time, but I wasn't. And and then so I kind of just dove into researching for a couple months, which is kind of another bad move. I should have just dove into minting and selling right away. But I'm kind of I really wanted, so just to sidetrack a little bit, Cats Will Eat You has been this lifelong project for me. I'm about to hit 17 years on Monday of posting a a piece of art every single day.
Wow.
And so when I was researching it, just reading about like how this gets, the artist gets attached to these images on the blockchain forever, I was kind of like, it started to click for me finally. And I was like, this is how I can totally preserve this legacy, this huge collection that I've been making, my whole life. And then I kind of became super picky, like, because I wanted it all in one place. I wanted to put it all on one marketplace. So by the end of 2020, I'd like pinpointed, like, I gotta be on Nifty Gateway or Super Rare. And I sent in my applications there, and I didn't hear back, and so I was just kind of like waiting, when I feel like I probably should have just like jumped right into some of the free marketplaces that weren't curated and started selling stuff then.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the beauty of blockchain too, is like you can mint it and then still own it, like, no matter what platform you use. But you I didn't know you were doing it every day for 17 or almost 17 years this upcoming Monday. And it's reminds me of Jonathan Mann, Song a Day Man.
Yeah.
Now, in my mind, I'm thinking. So yeah, now in my mind, I'm thinking of like a collaboration video of like you posting every single one of your artworks and him singing a song on top of your artwork for every day you've done for over the years, and kind of like a mashup. But yeah, he's also that reminds me of what he's done, and I think that's an awesome lead. Like, that's an awesome way to showcase your history and your evolution, because there's so much emotion that goes into the artwork. So you kind of evolve with you as a person,
right? Yeah.
And then
it's drastically different from when I began, and like the stuff I'm doing now will be different from a couple years from now. And
then how was Cats Will Eat You name born?
So about 20 years ago, I would have been in like a graphic. I was in college and I was doing a graphic design course, and our instructor, like, everybody hated this graphic design instructor, and he lived alone with his cats. And then he came to class one day and he was telling us, "Oh, I watched this special on Animal Planet about how a house cat like ate its owner because the owner died."
I think I've seen that.
In that moment, it was just so funny for him to be telling us that. We all knew he lived alone with his cat, and I fell out of my chair laughing. Like, I just couldn't hold it back. And then like I think I bought the URL catswilleeatyou.com like within an hour. Of that moment, I was like, this is it. I didn't have any plans for it. Like, I wasn't sure I was going to do I wasn't sure I was going to put my artwork there or anything. But then I started using it like as kind of my my message board name for every platform that I would sign up for. I would use Cats Will Eat You, and then I started building an art website there shortly after.
Wow. And have you drawn many cats? I feel like a lot of what I've seen lately is more like the
not
trippy.
Really. There was like one, I'll send it to you after this. There was like one of my early oil paintings was called Cats Will Eat You. And it's like a painting of cats like eating this guy. And it was like, at the time, it was like representative of like a bunch of people in my life. But yeah, it's, and I probably had cats in a lot of earlier work, but not so much now. We don't have cats in our house. My kids are allergic. So, yeah.
Well, for this, I guess, origin of you as a creator, as an artist, do you have like family or friends who have kind of shown you the path of this, or just kind of like your own path, your own guide?
Yeah, just kind of myself there, really. Are you asking like, other family that create art, or?
Yeah, have you been inspired by any family members or friends who kind of like showed you how to be an artist or what it looks like to be an artist and kind of inspired you to go down that route? Or
yeah, no, we were like my parents, I grew up in rural Wisconsin, and my parents are like super practical people, like very much not like, I wanted to be an artist as a kid, and they were just kind of like, how about computers? Or how about, like you got to find a career to get yourself out of here. Otherwise, you're stuck. And so they were kind of, I wouldn't say they were like anti-art, but they were like not showing a lot of enthusiasm for my own art, I would say. They've kind of come around to appreciate it now, but it was like something I couldn't, like, I think I had like a cousin that drew well, and like there was some kids at school that drew well, and I was just like, that is the coolest thing. I have to get good at drawing. And right away I was like very prolific as an artist, like even as a kid.
Nice. Yeah, it's always interesting hearing the origin of, maybe what like event triggered you to go down this route, but it sounds it's very innate in who you are as a person.
Yeah, it didn't even dawn on me until like college that for some people like drawing isn't the coolest thing. Like I was like dumbfounded. I was like, to finally realize that. I was like, oh, everybody doesn't want to be amazing at art? Like, what?
I want to be, but it's so hard for me. I'm like, how do I draw a straight line? And I just end up drawing, I don't even know what. It's just, but I love seeing what you've produced and what you create. And I'll definitely love to learn more about your creative process. So every day for almost 17 years now, how do you, like, where does your creativity come from?
It's a good question. I really, and I've definitely refined the process over the years, where I would say when I first started, I would kind of stress out like almost the whole day, like, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to come up with something to make today? I would kind of like try to think on it all day, and then sit there at night, and I'd be like drawing something, crumple it up, just like, I got to get this done. And I would kind of stress out about it. And then now my process is more like, I just pick the medium that I'm going to work with for the evening, and I just start putting stuff down without, I try to like not think about it, and get, just try to let creativity like flow out and flow through me without thinking, and then sort of wait for something to happen. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you sit down and do the work of just start drawing, eventually there's this magical moment where it like clicks in, and you like see something or you feel something, and then it's easier to like finish the work from that perspective. But there's always that sort of moment of like, you just feel like a total imposter while you're, sloppily throwing lines down and stuff. But then you kind of pull out of that, and it feels amazing.
I feel like I'm a podcaster imposter, because I've seen so many amazing podcasters, and I'm just like, oh man, how do they do it? And I feel like that, but I guess I understand the imposter syndrome feeling.
Yeah.
So
halfway through this episode, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm a podcaster.
I'm cool. I can do this. I can do it. What's your favorite medium to draw on?
Right now, lately, I've been into drawing, or I've been into painting simulators in VR, where it's very much set up like 2-dimensional canvases, like you'd have in real life. It's just like you're immersed in a painting studio where you have infinite supplies. And so it's very much rooted in traditional painting, but there's that sort of freedom of digital work where you're not worried about making a mess or the cost of supplies at all. Like it's like I paid a one-time fee for most of these apps, and a lot of these apps I got in like sort of day one with. And so I know, like, I'm on Discords with the developers of these apps, which is super amazing. Like, I've seen them add features just because I requested them.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's really exciting to me in just like the new frontier of virtual reality. But I also love, you know, drawing on physical paper, and I like drawing on my iPad. So it's hard to pick. And I like making 3D stuff on desktops. So I kind of, if you follow me for a while, you'll start to see that I'm bouncing around between a few mediums. I'm also super into augmented reality right now. Sort of, you know, making an experience that it adds a layer onto like a sort of frozen piece of art, and then you pull your phone out and you can kind of like interact with it in a different sort of way. I think that's super exciting for me.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your artwork shift in different mediums, and it's always fun. And I think I like your style of, it's like a little trippy. It's just kind of makes you fall into the screen. That's what I feel like, at least when I'm looking at your artwork, which is fun.
Nice.
But what do you want your, I guess, viewers to really get out of your artwork? What is the message you're trying to convey?
You know, I feel like, especially when I'm able to draw from that sort of area of like pure inspiration, and it just like comes out of me, and I feel like hopefully they can connect. Like for me, I'll stand back after it's done and look at a piece and be like, oh, that's really interesting. And it kind of hits me almost in a way like a tarot card or something, where it's like it's kind of giving me some insight to where I'm at and where I would like to go. And I think it kind of like self-reflection. And I've had a lot of people like write to me talking about like synchronistic moments that they've had while looking at my art. And that's always pretty cool to like have somebody have those same kind of connections with these things, because I'm honestly, like, I'm just improvising on the spot, and I don't know what, like, I usually don't have a preconceived idea of what I'm going to make. And then to like throw it out there, and then all of a sudden I have something that's almost giving me a little more insight about myself. And then hopefully when I share it with other people, that they can kind of get some insight there too. And then I hope people just like get excited about the technology I use, and just like excited about making art.
Yeah. And I guess back to the technology standpoint, have you found the blockchain crypto community enabling you to take your art further in a different creative lens?
Absolutely. I mean, I think initially, like, just the financial support that you can get for the first time, being able to sort of sell digital work was huge for me. I was able to like get myself a new iPad. I was able to get a VR headset, stuff that I just couldn't justify before. Like, oh, you know, because we have kids and life expenses, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to buy these art toys. And so it's been super rewarding. And I feel like the community as a whole, the crypto community as a whole, is a lot more interested in sort of emerging tech and art. So yeah, they've been super supportive of that. And then it's also exposed me to a lot more digital focused, emerging tech focused artists, which is, you know, that I can draw inspiration from.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, being in the crypto industry and watching it play out, what is a crypto pet peeve that you have or developed?
You know, it's really hard to trust people sometimes, and I'm naturally like pretty gullible. It's really hard to like figure out. It took me a while to like find my, like, the group of people that I know and really enjoy. Like, I look back kind of at notes I took about different people or marketplaces, and I was just like pretty blinded at times by,
Yeah.
and it was hard to find the right people. And then there's a lot of characters that we know are like just influencers and just pumping their own bags left and right. And there's like, they can get called out like 100 times and they'll still show up the next day and they'll still have support behind them somehow. Like there's like I'm not into cancel culture, but I also think some of these people should just like
stop.
We need to stop. Like you can't go and like pump your crappy PFP project anymore because like you've got a track history here that we can all see. But for some reason, like I think there's just a little bit. It's tempting to like interact with these people because there's financial gains that can happen from it. So it's hard for us all to like say like, oh, we can't have that person around anymore because they might benefit us too. So that, and I would say at the core, that's probably my pet peeve. Oh, I got one more pet peeve.
Yes,
like,
please.
Our attention span is horrible. And so like there can be an amazing project that like takes off and we're all like, this is so cool. And then like a week later, all the interest, if people aren't sinking money into it anymore, the interest is just gone regardless of the tech usually. And that's kind of disappointing. My main example of this would be like the async marketplace they were probably one of the most cutting edge NFT marketplaces with all sorts of like cool dynamic options for creators to make NFTs that were a little deeper than, one JPEG. And like, it was a hard platform for me to get accepted onto. And I made some great sales there, and there was lots of huge projects that did well there. And then I think the last 2 years were just a little rough, and they weren't able to like stay in the headline outside of newer projects, like newer, fancier things came along, or like not even fancier projects, just new. Like people are just excited about what's new. And so they lost kind of that base level support, and now they're shutting the doors on the platform.
Oh, I didn't.
So that's always a bummer when you see stuff like that, or you see projects that are like genuinely superior to other projects, but they just don't have that influencer behind them pumping it, so they're just not going to succeed, and that's kind of tough to watch.
Yeah, it is tough, and it's tough on many levels because, like you said, it's hard to trust people in general. And being in crypto since like 2013, like I've seen ICOs and projects and promises and influencers and this and that, and they come and go like nothing, and they take their money and they leave, and everyone else is just confused on to why like, this is what you promised, and you just stopped trying and stopped delivering. And if you didn't stop, and then people just didn't care anymore because because a token wasn't pumping or whatever reason, it's just, if I'm not making money off of you, then I'm not going to care about you. That's kind of the vibe in crypto sometimes. And it's horrible to see because that's not the ethos that we want to present. We want to present the technology and the use cases that it can provide to artists, and even financial policies, or just having that credibility on the blockchain, which is what we want it for. And yeah, it's sad to see. And I'm hoping that changes sooner than later, because right now it's all OpenSea, Rarible, and kind of just PFP projects. And I bought like NFTs, and I'm just like, why did I buy this? It's cost me $100, and now that's not worth nothing. And I'm not even in any community that serves anything. They're just, that's it. That's all I got was a blockchain transaction.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad. But yeah, I mean, it goes on. So now that, you're in this industry, growing, you're creating art. Have you ever had I guess, any interest in just leaving the crypto space and going back into traditional means of selling art?
I never left the traditional um, means of selling art, so I'm still like I still have like a Web2 store up where I'm selling like acrylic paintings and some other, you know, sort of handmade items. I don't see another way to sort of legitimize digital art sales without the blockchain. So I think I'm gonna stay. Like it I made so many friends. Like I have so much fun interacting with the community. Like they're like incredibly smart. The jokes are top level all the time. Like it's so yeah. I've never considered leaving.
Good, good. I'm glad you're not, because it's
Yeah.
hard to, it's a great place to be. I mean, after all the shit, it's still like an awesome place to be.
Yeah, it's
Because
like
of
even in like like if I have a month where I have like no sales, I guarantee you I still like had a total blast just like interactive. Like there's even the scams are like wildly entertaining.
even if you're part of it, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
you learn something for sure. I mean, I feel like I haven't had one guest on my show that hasn't had their scam story or just loss or just bad investment choices. It's part of the learning, and you grow from that. And we're all still here because
Yeah.
we love this industry. So how do you, again, working full time and doing your art and being in crypto, having kids, a family, how do you keep yourself in like a sanity check?
I think it comes and goes. Sanity. like it I mean, I've got a very like segmented sort of schedule in life right now. Like I help put the kids to sleep at night and I take like an evening nap like at like 9 to 10 p.m. I'll like
Oh, wow.
sleep for like an hour. Sometimes I'll sleep for 2 hours and then I get up and I have like the house to myself. And that's when I like make my art and like interact on crypto Twitter. And that's sort of how I like balance my own life. But I'm excited to see how that changes as my kids get older and they stay up later. And like, when do I am I still going to take like a night nap then? I don't know.
That's impressive, a night nap. I would not, I go to bed at 9 and I'm sleeping. I wake up at like 8, 7 or 8.
Yeah,
Try to get up at 6 for that stuff.
I don't think it's super normal that like most people, if they take a nap, they're gonna wake up at that time. They're just not gonna wake up.
Yeah.
But it works for me. I think Picasso was actually he did like biphasic sleep too, where he's took like a late night and kind of got up and then went to work in his studio, and then during the day kind of did his schmoozing and visiting with collectors and stuff, and then would go home, take like a super late nap, and then so I sleep for a couple hours, and then maybe get like a 4 hour chunk or 5 hour chunk later.
Are there any artists that you look up to? Was it like Picasso?
Yeah, I mean, like for like painters, I love like Frida Kahlo. De Kooning was always a big influence for me. And then, I got tons of artists in the digital space that I like. Well, there's another traditional artist who's just kind of wacky. Let's Paint TV, not involved in the crypto space at all, but he will like do a painting like while he's running on a treadmill and like taking like people can call in and like talk to him. He's like taking calls and he'll be like mixing drinks at the same time. So it's like this whole like marathon of like doing 100 things at once and like making like these, just trying to make art. I don't know what it is about it. It's just super, like every time I watch it, I get like super excited and it just fills me with like inspiration. It's more of like a performance art. Yeah, and then there's like a sculptor I'm really into, Jonathan Popper, I think it Popper.
I'm not
Um,
sure.
yeah, just these huge sort of like giant heads and crazy like larger than life sculptures that you can like walk around and see. He's in like all sorts of sculpture gardens. Yeah, and then obviously like in the digital space, I'm a big fan of like lots of glitch artists right now. And like my friend Empress Trash, like Max Capacity a lot. I don't really want to get into listing too many people here
No,
because there's too many I'd lift off. But like, yeah, there's just lots of great artists out there right now.
yeah, and I mean, there's like an infinite amount of artists, and the variety of art is also infinite in itself because you can find art in anything, from programming languages to painting and sculptures. So that's a beautiful thing about it. And as you're like creating your artwork and you're finding your inspiration, I usually notice a theme from your artwork recently. Is this something that's, I guess, a newer theme for you, or like, because usually it's that one person like walking around, or that figure with like their third eye open. It's what is a representation for that person?
Um, it's definitely like that's a self-portrait for me, and that's a character that's been, if you look back on my work, it's probably been in there for about 10 years. Like it was just like maybe it was a time where I started thinking about art as more of like a spiritual practice, or like more of like I was trying to figure out like where is this stuff coming from, and I started like drawing the circle on their head, just to like indicate like where I feel like this sensation. And that was before I had no idea of like the third eye in like that spiritual context of it or anything. I just started drawing it, and then people started reaching out like, oh, what's with this third eye? And then I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like kind of right on there. And then like I even read like a couple of years ago, I discovered that like the first images, like the first artist images of Buddha were like blue, and I was like, well, that's too weird. Like, why? I've been drawing this blue guy for how many years now? Like, this is so insane to me. Like, and for me, it was just like natural. But then it also feels like it's leading me along. So I just keep on going back to it.
It makes us feel very connected, huh? Like we all represent that universal understanding of like that third eye. Like this is where we feel these certain creative feelings and inspirations, and
right,
we're all human and we all experience it, and it's just hard to put a label or understanding to it. And that's why I appreciate those Eastern philosophies and teachings, is because it has like thousands of years of how humans interact and are and feel, and kind of a real focus on the inner being rather than just external wants and needs. And it seems like it came out of you naturally without even studying it, which is amazing to see. And if you had, I guess, anyone who's watching this and who's, looking into you as an artist, do you have any advice or recommendations to give to people who want to get into art, especially in the crypto space?
I would say to focus on what you naturally do. There were definitely, when I finally did make the leap into the space, I asked for a lot of advice, and it was like, oh, you should post your 3D work, or you should, make something related to Dogecoin. And it was like, and I feel like those things were like genuinely like bad moves for me. And then finally, like when I just like started putting out like my more like abstract, like Picasso-esque like work, people like really started latching on and connecting with it. And ultimately, like if you really want to connect with people that want your work, you need to show them what you naturally do, and don't like focus on what's hot for the moment. Or at least if you're doing that, don't put too much time into it and keep working on yourself. You know, like I also love it when people like go full on into a meme for a moment. You just like with everybody in Miami, like I don't know if you saw the stuff about Tezpole blowing up. There was like these Tezos artists in Miami got represented on this pole that had these digital displays. It just looked horrible. Like it was just like so poorly designed by whoever set up the displays, and it became like iconic. And like then Tezos artists started like making their own crazy Tez poles and like minting those and selling those. And I think that's something that you should do just to like connect with other artists in the community. But I don't think you should like change your whole focus of what you want to be making or what you think will sell, because I think ultimately you want to connect with collectors that really like you for what you do.
Yeah, and finding your own voice and own narrative, right? It's been a hard thing for me to do too, as a person who's trying to be more, I guess, public in crypto. Finding my own voice, finding my own narrative, trying to speak how I would speak rather than speak on how people would expect me to talk like.
For sure.
And that's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to, I guess, go through that motion, through that phase, and through that fear of putting yourself out there, because you want to do what you think is best. But what is best is usually just who you are. Now, also, you know, having this group of friends in crypto and like learning about the space and industry, what is your most like, memorable, wholesome crypto moment that you've experienced?
I think the one that is honestly the most wholesome just happened like a month ago. I don't know why I love this so much, but I had like really screwed up. I had 3 packages leave the house. Like, so some of my NFTs come with a physical gift too. And I had 3 packages leaving the house in one day, and 2 of them got swapped. Like went wrong art sent to the wrong person.
Oh man.
And I was just like, oh, I messed up so bad. Like I was so embarrassed, right? And then I was like, you know, how do you guys want to handle this? I can cover the shipping costs. Like, can you send them back? You know, but they were just like very, very cool about it, very understanding, and they were willing to like swap each other's addresses and like leave me out of the package exchange. And like they've kind of started like we had like a group text going with the 3 of us, and we were like kind of just checking in on each other every day for a while, like talking about like personal like medical issues and stuff. And it was like nothing, you know, like it became like this friendship circle just off of like my own mistake. And they were both like big fans of my work, and it was such a relief to me, because that could have been like they could go like public with that on Twitter and be like, oh, this dumb artist like sent me the wrong package, you know. But like they were very understanding and gracious, and they both got the right art eventually. And then I like, you know, sent them like a couple like gift NFTs just as a thank you. It's That's just
awesome.
And I just thought that was super cool.
That is. And it's like you just made a friendship between people, and like the universe kind of like collected you all together and said, hey, you should all meet together through Matt's mistake, but it's okay. They
were two collectors on the Tezos chain that didn't know each other before that moment, and now they do.
Right.
That's cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad it went well, and I'm glad it handled very well. I'm glad that you were able to make friends and communities through your art. I mean, that's the whole purpose, I think, is get a group of people to understand each other through art, maybe because it just makes sense to them, they relate to it, and
Yep.
you're a source of that. So I'm sure it's very appreciated between them. But is there anything you'd want to, share as what's coming up, where people can find you? Any good tidbits of information?
Well, Monday, depending on when this goes out, but like on it, and I'll still have stuff available, I'm sure, always. But on Monday, the 18th of December, I've got kind of another wholesome story.
Good.
But I've got a drop
Sure.
on an open edition drop on Rarible of like a really like intricate piece I spent a lot of time on. But I had problems, like people are kind of going back into Rarible right now just because there's they've kind of like updated their policy to like lock down royalties for artists. And so I was like, oh, I'll go see what they got going on over there again. And I couldn't get a collection verified. I like gave them proof that I was like the artist of the collection. And so I just like made kind of a complainy post about it online. And they were like, it kind of like blew up, like people were retweeting like, what? You don't know who CatsWillEatYou is? How dare you? Like, what? And so like people were kind of like helping me out. And then Rarible like turned it around and we're like, oh, this is just like just an oversight. We'll get you squared away. And then they reached out to me in DMs and were like, hey, we kind of want to make it up to you. Do you want to do like a OE drop for us? And we'll do like a little Spaces talk. So we'll have a little talk on Monday. We'll do the open edition drop. Nice. It should be pretty affordable. I'm hoping to hit like about like a $20 mark for that. Knock on wood that the gas fees aren't astronomical. But then I'll have like a giveaway that day also on 01. And then probably a one of one that I'll launch that day. So there'll be like a few new things coming out that day. And then other than that, you just kind of like, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see like everything that I've got to offer.
Oh yeah.
CatsWillEatYou. That
sounds awesome. I'm super excited for it. And I hope you get sold out. Is it limited? It's a limited.
No, that one's going to be an open edition, but it will be like, okay. I think it's going to be like 24 or 48 hours only. So don't miss out.
Don't miss out. And thank you again, Matt, for being on the show. I love your art. I'm happy to keep seeing what you keep producing. I'm happy to share what you produce. Hopefully I get to collect something. But thank you again and all the best to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Rudy. I really appreciate it. It's been nice.